the governor's.
Dr. Malone, Joe Zarzaur again to talk with you on our daily or weekday daily COVID-19 updates. We had the whole weekend. Nothing really crazy happened over the weekend, so we didn't have one of these. But the numbers went up drastically, right, over the weekend or today?
Yeah, and I guess locally speaking, we realized that bump that you and I had referred to a couple of times in some of the earlier segments, I guess a week and a half ago now, where I had mentioned, that it's out there. We're just not able to test it in real time. And when that time comes that we start catching up on the backlog of tests, and here we are. So I think Friday night when we spoke, we were around 28 in Escambia County that were diagnosed as positive. And it went from 28 to 37. And then between yesterday and today, 37 to 81.
Wow, that's a big jump. 37 to 81 positive cases. And that's just here locally.
In Escambia, yeah.
Okay. And I also saw somewhere that they had the first case out of Perdido Key, first case out of Beulah, I think, and there was also something about they're opening a new testing facility in Cantonment. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. And that's so there's 2 drive-through facilities before today, and that's what we mentioned last week. One was a Sacred Heart drive-through, and then the community health drive-through that was at Brownsville Community Center. And now there's another one up on Highway 29 at the community health pediatrics that is run by the county. So that'll be a 3rd drive-through site in our area. So more testing. I mean, the numbers are 10% positivity right now. It's hung right around there, both in the state and locally. So more testing means we're going to find more positive tests. It's not that the disease it's not that the infection is going up. It's we're finally catching up to the measure of it.
So
I think partly.
So here's what I'm seeing a lot of. And I don't know if it's just my observation, but I see a lot of young people still socializing and rafting up on their boats. And my neighbor told me he went out to Fort McRae this weekend, and he goes, it looked like Blue Angels.
Yep.
It was boat on top of boat on top of boat on top of boat. Okay. And he said he just drove by and he was like, I can't believe that these people aren't paying attention to this. Right. What can you say to people to make them understand why that's dangerous?
There's no shortage of it. I mean, to give you one good thing I can say there. I mean, it's doom and gloom. I mean, I've watched enough stuff and read enough stuff online, just being charged with this duty, to provide some reports. And there's some pretty salient talks out there, but the attention span of a 45-minute talk from an infectious disease expert is something that I'm interested in watching, but are the people that are hanging on the boats? I don't know.
Right. But what can you say to them that will get through them? Like 1 out of 20 of y'all will have it, and maybe 1 out of 100 of you will die from it. I mean, is there something that you can say to these people? Like, you're not invincible to this. And and if you have it, you may not have any symptoms right now. And you can spread it to people that could actually have risk factors and die, right?
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, that to me is
a good case scenario is 100 to 200,000 people dying from this. And a worst case scenario, I think, is 2 million people dying from this. So
worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide. And so, but the 200,000 figure was
for
country,
US.
Right? For
US.
US.
For the US. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is why people need more than that as encouragement to not do this stuff. I mean, is it really going to hamper you that much to just not go and socialize for 10 minutes? And the argument they make is, oh, I know these people. Like, I hung out with them last week too. Or they haven't been anywhere. Or they're fine. I've been around them for the last month and a half and I'm not sick yet. I hear that too. Right. So what do you say to those people? Like, cause what I think to myself as just a lawyer, non-physician, but are you going to ask all those people you're talking to where they've been and who they've talked to in the last 20 days and take an inventory and write it down? Because later, if one of those people they talk to gets gets the virus, then they have to come find you and quarantine you. And it makes it so much harder on society to deal with this because you're being irresponsible. Is that too far? Am I going too far with that?
No, I think that's accurate. And going back to your original question on what you would tell someone, I mean, if it's your loved one who's in the at-risk age groups, and they're now the governor's saying if you're over 65, you need to quarantine just to stay out of contact with people. So, the saying, do you have a 65-year-old parent or grandparent or family member or close friend, you run the risk of putting them at harm. So,
or a friend with asthma.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
Or
and
likes
I guess
vape all the time, or smokes pot on the weekends with a vape, or has a long history of smoking pot on the weekends, or smokes cigars every weekend. I mean, those people have compromised lungs already. So, I mean, this may be cute and fun and whatever, and a nice topic of a conversation to joke about, but it's serious business. I mean, it's shut the world down. So if something is such a big deal that it shut the whole world down, and it's something you're going to tell your grandkids about, you probably need to be paying a little more attention to it. It's not something that's just going to go away overnight. Am I wrong to say that?
No, you're right. And I encourage people to try to read some of these true accounts where it's not someone embellishing it. It's from someone who thought that they were healthy and got infected, and will tell you very plainly that it was a horrible experience, that they would wish it on no one, and that they regret exposing themselves if they could identify where they got where they picked this up.
All right.
So read about that.
What other medical stuff can you tell people about that you may have learned over the weekend or today?
Not medical necessarily, but you and I referred to it on Friday or late last week about trying to limit different segments of the country or geography just based on the density of some of these infections. And I think we're starting to see some of that trend. I know for today, they were talking about South Florida versus our part of Florida, maybe treating some of the quarantine or the limitations a little bit differently. And then as far as travel in and out of the state, there's no control over that. There's an attempt to try and limit or inform these people that are coming from outside of the state of Florida to come and vacation here. But there's, how do you impose that? That's difficult. So so that's not necessarily medical, but I do want to say that I've started to see, and I mentioned this again last week, that the recovered number that when you looked at these numbers on Johns Hopkins, you saw like 128 people recovered, and we're at 100,000 people were infected. And I was like, wait until we start seeing some recovers. It's not necessarily a good sign, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays into it, because to get listed as recovered in the eyes of the CDC, you need to have 2 consecutive negative tests collected greater than 24 hours apart. So that's a total of 4 tests to prove that you're negative, so that you're recovered. We're in a situation where we're trying to get the initial test done. So how do you get 4 tests on someone to prove negativity? Which one do you do first? Let's get the infected people, or do we want to prove the negativity? Along with that, they have to have resolution of all their symptoms, no fevers, and they need to, whatever other comorbidities they had need to be stabilized. That's considered recovered. That's a whole lot worse than waiting for 4 days for one test or 5 days for one test initially. So I think these recovered numbers are going to lag. And just like we saw the bump in these infections from yesterday to today, we're going to see the bump in the recovers as well. That's, I guess, good news, but we're not there yet, and we're nowhere near there.
And my other concern is that since we're pretty sheltered as far as exposure initially, we're taking this less serious. And then by the time we do take it serious and everybody's following instructions, it's going to be too late, because all those people have infected a lot of other people. And I guess that's my concern. All right. At the office, just anecdotally, we had 4 people that had the test, or 3 people that had the test last week and the week before. All of them were negative. We've been on 2 weeks of, this is the 3rd week that we'll be doing remote work. And we had a really busy day today, again, signing up new clients. Most of them were done remotely. I think all of them today were done remotely. through virtual conferences and things like that. But we're able to do work. We're able to get it done. People are actually fairly productive at their house. And the insurance companies are actually putting people in their house, setting them up to work with all the necessary equipment. So we hadn't missed a beat there either, fortunately. The other concern I have is if you let things get bad, then they're more drastic, draconian type measures have to be employed to lock people down. And that is concerning. I had a potential client today, it actually became a client today, that works in one of the jails around here locally. And he was telling me that they haven't really done a lot as far as personal protection. They don't have a lot of new policies yet. I asked him if they'd come up with any systems yet. He wasn't aware of any big systems that they had worked on yet. I still don't know that a lot of stuff has taken place here locally to convince the public, the general public, that people need to stay away and alone and distance themselves from others. But of course, we're trying to do our part, right?
Yeah.
All right. Any other updates?
Well, I did see like one simple thing. That these people are talking about going to the grocery store and not hoarding, but they're saying shop smart, meaning try to buy like 2 weeks worth of food that you can sustain yourself on. It may be the same meal over and over, but 2 weeks, instead of going 5 times in 2 weeks, you go once in 2 weeks. Think about that. You just cut your chances from transmitting or catching anything down quite a bit. So that's just like simple, try to isolate and be efficient with the things you need to go out and do, because that is the reality of it. And then lastly, Joe, you had mentioned earlier about, what do we need to tell people? And I watched a very informative video over the weekend. I know I had shared it with you. It's with the gentleman, the professor, infectious disease professor at UAB in Birmingham, which I know you're familiar with. So I don't know if that'd be something that we want to point.
Yeah, we'll put it down below.
Yeah,
in the comments or something tonight.
Yeah, it's worth the 45 minutes, and I encourage everybody to watch it. I mean, I learned stuff, and then I wish that I was 10% as good as this physician at putting things in real tangible terms. And he's the one who got infected. So that right there is enough for me to say, I don't want this. So that might be part of the answer. So
yeah, it's good point, doctor. All right. We'll be back tomorrow with another update on this virus stuff. If you need us, you can find us on the web at zarzaurlaw.com. You can always call us at 855-HIRE-JOE. You can email us at info@zarzaurlaw.com. Y'all take care and stay healthy.